So thank you so much. This is my first time ever doing anything like this, so
No
it could
problem.
be a hot mess. We'll
That's
see.
okay. We'll just
Yeah.
go with it.
Yeah. So I did write down a few questions that that way I have, we can kind of maybe have some sense of direction, but really like whatever comes up organically is meant to
Oh,
be, right? So,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm so fascinated
Okay.
by the fact that you're a firefighter, first responder. What do you usually use? First responder, or
Yeah, usually the term is first responder, just because being a
you do so
firefighter,
much more?
I'm not just a firefighter. I'm also MFR, which stands for medical first responder as well. So
Okay.
we can get called out for a medical in terms of helping out the paramedics for anything, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
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 Wow. So what drew you to that? Like,
Well, honestly, I have always been that type of person to help other people. I have
mhm.
had tons of experience. I was started off as a lifeguard in like when I was 16, and I'm
Okay.
47
Yeah.
now, right? So
Yeah.
um and I started off with being a lifeguard as, part-time summer job, loved it, did that for
Mhm.
years. And then I met a guy because I'm originally from Ontario.
Okay.
Met a guy and he was a firefighter who I ended up moving to Nova Scotia because of him and
Okay.
wanted a new life and yada yada yada. Long story short of it, we got married, had a daughter, so I have 3 kids, and
Oh, wow.
uh, yeah, separated. But as I was married to him, he was on the local fire department in Pictou County,
Okay.
and I always wanted to get on because I loved the whole, wanting to help people and being in that first responder position.
Mhm.
But unfortunately, their brigade was very boys club at the time. Now this is going
Okay.
back, well, I don't know, like 10, 12 years ago, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
So it was very much still all male dominant, right?
Mhm.
Um, and they also questioned how, if the two of us being married, who would look after the kids if we both ended up on a call, and okay, fair enough.
Yeah. How
So
about you
then
let
I,
us figure out the logistics of our
right,
family dynamics and
right.
yeah, yeah.
But that didn't
Interesting.
matter. They were like, no, so being a
Mm.
female, trying to get on, being the first female for their brigade was kind of, they put the brakes on, right? So
Right.
I was like, okay, whatever. I'll still volunteer and help whenever I can. But
Right.
it made me think that, okay, I want to do this. Now you have to remember, um, going back that many years, I just had my daughter, who was, an infant at the time.
Right.
So I also had a lot more weight on. I was 220 pounds at that time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I was like determined. So I tried to go down to Halifax and to the fire school and apply that way.
Right.
Well, I got through the aptitude test, no problem. The only thing stopping me was the physical aspect because
Right.
I was overweight, seriously.
Right.
And for the life of me, I couldn't even do push ups or sit ups, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, climbing the ladder for the aerial, no problem. Doing the tunnel crawl, claustrophobic, no problem. Could do that, no problem. But it
Right.
was the physical aspect.
Yeah.
So I kind of was, taken back from
Wow.
that, and I
Yeah.
didn't pursue it any further.
Right. That must have been
So
so discouraging.
it was, but at the same time, it kind of was a blessing because I was really busy with 3 kids. They weren't teenagers, but at that time anyway. My
Right.
2 boys were in elementary school. My daughter was preschool. It was busy, married life, hectic
Wow. Yeah.
family, right?
Yeah.
And so I just thought, okay, it's not for me. Fast forward to 2016, my now ex-husband and I separated, and I moved from Pictou County to Truro Heights here.
Okay.
My kids, of course, fast forward again, they're in now going into junior high, and my daughter is in elementary, and
Right.
met up with a neighbor because they had at Victoria Park, they had a what they called a walk in our boots. So they were displaying what firefighters in the community do, and kind of like
Right.
a fun day. So I was like, okay. So one of the girls that was in Tia, my daughter's class, her father, they just live up the road from us. He was the chief at the time of our local
Okay.
brigade. Got
Cool.
talking to him, and I thought, well, I'll try, very encouraging, said, yeah, come on down, check it out. We're always looking for members. And I'm like, but I'm a woman. He's like, it doesn't matter. There's a few women on our brigade anyway. So the more the merrier. And I was
Nice.
like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, kind of just checked it out. Well,
Yeah.
I went down and everybody was welcoming, and yeah, kind of like that day forward, I was like, this is where I belong. So,
Oh,
of course,
wow.
becoming a member, you have to put in a certain amount of time, and then they vote you in, right?
Right.
As a volunteer base, that's how it works.
Okay.
Well, my time came up and everybody had to vote, and yeah, I had no problem with it. So it was very,
Nice.
very welcoming, and
Oh,
I really, so now this October will be 5 years that I'm on this brigade. Yeah, and I
wow.
love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
So maybe it was just about finding the right place at the right time.
yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
It all things I feel happen for reasons, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So clearly,
Yeah.
clearly during the time being married and having kids and family life was not the right time. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
now it's crazy. Like every time, and my daughter, who is now 14, every time my pager goes off, she's like, bye, mom, I love you. Be careful.
Ah,
She kind
okay.
of,
Yeah, because
and
I was wondering about that. Like, how does it affect your kids to
um,
have, because you must get called out at all different hours
oh,
and
we do. Like we can
yeah.
have calls at 2 a.m, or,
Mm-hmm.
midday. It all depends on whenever, right? We get called.
Right.
It really doesn't affect them now. It more so they're used to it. Now
Yeah.
my daughter is contemplating whether she wants to join the brigade as well. So as a
Oh,
junior
cool.
firefighter, um,
Yeah.
I tried to get the boys, they had no interest, but
Right.
so I'm
Yeah.
trying to get her involved, but she's still being 14, trying to figure out her life too, junior high, right?
Yeah.
So she's
Yeah.
on the fence, but she gets it. She gets it. Every time
Yeah.
it goes
That's
off, she gets
cool.
it. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
So being in
So
this
have are you
brigade,
able to talk to them about like any anxiety that might come up for them when you have gone on calls or?
I prefer not, just because I'm their mom, right? And they see
Mm-hmm.
me as the strong person. I'd rather them not see me as I don't want to say weak, but I don't want to put my anxiety, what I've seen and what I've done onto them,
Right. But
right?
do they
So
have any anxiety when you leave to go out on a call?
no, not
No.
really.
Okay.
They just know that, it's a call, and whatever happens, happens, right? I mean, but
Yeah.
we're always trying to ensure safety. Safety is number one for us, right?
Right. Okay.
As a
And
brigade. So
you feel safe.
absolutely, or I wouldn't
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. How do you leave it at the door?
So when I leave the house, you mean?
Well, no, like when you're coming back from a call, like if you've been on a disturbing call, how do you sort of leave it at the door so your kids aren't feeling that energy?
So if, well, knock on wood, I haven't yet, like gotten into a really bad situation. Our calls have been pretty good so far, but um, if I was to, I mean, if there was a really bad call, um, we go back to the hall and there's a debrief, like a crisis
Okay.
intervention, that we can, talk about it. Not, it's not that we, have to express
Yeah.
ourselves or anything, but we do get debriefed,
Mm-hmm.
and have that option. We also have, through the fire brigade, it's EAP, like
Yeah.
employment assistance program.
Yeah.
So we can always, if we needed a counselor or anything, we can get one through that.
Right.
Um, so we have options as first responders
Right.
to seek help. There's
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
and talking amongst one another who've been on those calls with us.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a mutual aid call and it was really bad, so other brigades, we can always reach out, you know what I mean? So it's
Right.
in that, it brotherhood, sisterhood, it's a very tight family. There are people there that are not on our brigade that I know and I reach out to, and it's, we're all in a family. We're all family
Right.
regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can get each other's stories because you're living them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a way that other people probably might not understand.
Well, and it's funny because if you're not in it, and if you're the outsider, people always think,
Hmm.
"Oh, that's so cool! You're a firefighter.
Yeah.
You're a hero. You're awesome." But they don't
Yeah.
really understand what the job entails, because it's not. It is cool, but it's not all about show. It is hard.
Mm.
Like, it's not easy. You
Yeah.
know,
Hard physically, mentally, spiritually.
absolutely
Yeah.
everything, right? Yeah,
Yeah. In a way that doesn't show up in a lot of other professions, right? So,
you're right.
yeah. Like, so unless maybe like military or police or whatever, they would get it.
Yeah,
But yeah.
other first responders would definitely get it, but I mean, the
Yeah.
public, society, um, just the regular civilian on the street, they don't really understand what goes in behind the scenes. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and the stress that you guys deal with day in and
right,
day out. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You know,
So, do you feel like the people, that you work with take advantage of that mental health help that's there, that's provided, or
I'm not sure myself. I have actually used it for my personal self,
yeah,
which was great because I needed it. But
yeah,
um, like, there's no shame in
okay,
needing,
yeah.
no,
So
you
there's
know
no stigma in the
well,
organization.
no, because, and it's not even just the organization. Regardless, if you're not, mental health is such a big, huge thing. I'm just going to grab my phone charger because my phone is like
Yeah,
low, but
sure.
mental health is a huge thing. And regardless if you're a first responder or not,
Right.
right? And I find that the resources are not readily available. Then I
Mhm.
don't know if that's because we're in such a mental health crisis,
I think that
you
plays a
know,
big part.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But
They're
if
just
people,
everyone's stretched so thin.
well, and this is it, regardless if you're a first responder or not, just a regular
Mhm.
person, I
Yeah.
think that, regardless, if the resources are available, take advantage of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No matter who you are.
Do you find that there's challenges within being a first responder that are still particular to women that the men don't experience, or is it kind of become a little bit more leveled?
I think it's becoming more accepted that women are getting into, the firefighting scene. Um, so when I joined, it was great because I took on the responsibility of the fire prevention lieutenant. And
Okay,
so I go into the school, into our elementary school and local elementary school here, and I do during fire prevention week, I do fire prevention.
cool.
But with that, I kind of tweak it and let the girls know that, you know what, no matter what, girls can be firefighters too.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
there is, if you want something that bad, then you're going to do it regardless
Yeah,
of
yeah,
whatever you identify as, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I just feel that it's becoming more and more accepted for women, you know. I mean,
yeah,
we're just as mentally strong and physically
yeah,
as men, and
exactly.
sometimes even more so than some men, right? But
Yeah,
I just love promoting being a first responder as a woman, that you know what, any female can do it too,
yeah, yeah,
you know.
that's awesome. Good for you. Yeah,
Thanks.
that's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's been eventful. I love it. There's lots of learning too. We're constantly learning
Yeah,
as the fire scene is always evolving, you know what I mean?
right,
So learning new tactics, learning what works and what doesn't work. And I
right.
mean, there's always, and that's the thing. There's like, I'm one who likes to learn. So
Yeah,
hey, if I can do it again, then I'm going to do it again and take whatever I can to keep on learning and
yeah,
gaining knowledge, and you know what I mean?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, what would you tell other women who are considering going into that field?
Who
Words
are
of
considering, do it.
advice or
Just do it.
so any
I mean,
advice or like anything that you think kind of would give them a little bit of an edge?
well, see, now I'm a volunteer, so for me it's
Yeah.
different than a paid firefighter.
Okay.
And I'm not 100% sure. Like, I've wanted to do the paid career in Halifax, but for me right now, with my daughter still in school, I just don't want to leave her overnight, because it's
Mhm.
shift work, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I travel, so you're on for I don't know how many days and off for so many days. I'm just,
Right.
until she's a little older, maybe.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, there is the physicalities of it. So you have to be prepared for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm not really prepared because unfortunately for me, I have a herniated and bulging disc in my back.
Oof. Oof.
It's been manageable. I'm coping, so it's great.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but the guys on the team know that what I can and cannot do and what my limits are. And my chief is excellent. Like, Sabrina, as long as you know your limits, yes, sir, I do.
Yeah.
So it's great that way. But if anybody really wants to do it, I don't see why not. You can do it.
Mm.
Any female, I kudos them. I applaud them to do it. If you have questions, I'm always ready and available to answer questions, help out. I think it's wonderful.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. So, you had mentioned, and we can discuss whether you are willing to share this part of your life. But you had mentioned that you have struggled with PTSD and BPD.
Yep.
Is that
So,
something that you feel comfortable talking about?
oh, for sure, I definitely
Okay.
can.
Because
So it
I'm
doesn't,
wondering
yeah,
how, sorry, I didn't
no,
mean to
that's okay.
interrupt, but, um, and specifically wondering how could you encourage someone who might have similar diagnosis or other mental health issues that are considered more like extreme, um, in choosing a career that is pretty high stress, um, and given the statistics around BPD and PTSD, I think a lot of people reading those statistics could feel very hopeless about finding, a way into a challenging career like first responder.
It's not for everyone. I'm going to be honest. Um, but my PTSD and BPD is not due to the fact that I'm a first responder. It's,
Right.
for me, it's suicide runs in the family.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my father committed suicide when I was younger. But anyway, that
Wow.
has caused me to have PTSD and BPD and
Right.
dissociative disorder.
Right.
Um, but for me, it was always I wanted to help other people, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
want to be able to, you know, make that mental health awareness to the fact that, what, I can be strong in doing this and be involved in the community, and it makes me feel happy. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Um, I don't like this is my passion. You have to be passionate. You have to be wanting to do it. And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I have down days, but
Right.
I tend to look at the positive things to get myself out of those days. And for me, it's just thinking of things that make you happy. So for me,
Mhm.
it's this whole firefighting thing. Or I'll reach out to one of the guys and say, "Hey, today's not a good day. Like, can we talk?" Or you
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and
So
it's not
you've developed a network of people that you can reach out to.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's
It's
good.
I will tell you that it's not for everyone. You have to have thick skin, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and it's all in about how you deal with it, like
Right.
somebody who may have the same mental diagnosis as me may not be able to cope with
Right.
certain calls or certain things, and maybe it's not for them, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But
I think the reason I asked was because I feel like in some cases, people would just automatically assume it's not for them because of their diagnosis, you know? So
but
just to
that's
know that like it's
no,
not for
I
everyone, but it's
you're
also
right.
could be for anyone.
Oh, absolutely. We have
Yeah.
one of our brigade members is autistic. She has Asperger's, and she's great. Like, she knows her limits. She knows what sets her off. She knows, and we all know as well. But we all work
Yeah.
together, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's not about what I battle compared to what you battle compared to this next person. It's about what
mhm.
you can, how you can cope, and if you can cope, then you can do it.
Right.
You know,
Wow. Yeah. So what are some of the things that you use to help you cope?
for me, mentally,
Yeah.
or just within the call, or
Oh, I mean, yeah, both, I guess. Yeah.
so I am a big, huge fan of working out. That
Mm-hmm.
is my go-to. If I and I and there's days where I really have to push myself. So
Yeah.
like maybe the last 2 days I've been really busy, but I haven't been
Yeah.
able to get a workout in. But
Yeah.
I have been extremely, I'm on a health kick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Eating properly, working out, being
Right.
physically able to. So when I do go on a call, I can do these things.
Right. And that gives you the confidence going in.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So usually for me, my go-to is actually to work out, even if it's just take the dogs for a walk. It
Right.
doesn't have, and when I say work out, it doesn't mean that I have to be physically lifting like weights or whatever,
Right.
just being really
Movement.
active. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And then what about like on a call when you come across a call that's maybe triggering or brings up some stuff for you?
I am very, I'm a different kind of breed. When it comes to stuff like that, I block stuff out,
Right.
and I get into like work mode, as they call it.
Yeah.
Um, Even when I was the aquatics director for the Y, we had a few, incidents, and I remember people saying at the end of it, "How is it that you're just so calm during this whole?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
I just go into work mode.
Right. So the
It's all about,
logical mind
yeah,
thinking.
it's
Yeah.
all about, how can I get this person to be safe? How can I help this person? How can I, you know, and then afterwards, you go through your head and you overthink everything. And, oh, I could have
Yeah.
done this and I could have
Yeah.
done that. Oh, crap. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's human nature.
Right. Yeah.
Um, but that's usually what happens for me. And also, like, going in as a firefighter, there's protocols, there's steps where we have to take, like, you can't just go running into a building. You have to, you know
Hmm.
listen
Yeah.
to the ones that are there first on the call, on the scene. We have to work together as a team. You can't
Right.
be injuring yourself or others, because we are number one, right? Safety for
Right.
us is number one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's that's how I deal with it. I really just go in and I block everything else out, and I just go in and know what I have to do because it's my job. And then
Right.
afterwards, if I feel that it was a tough call, I can sit down and talk to somebody, or just even write things out, like, I could have done this or I could have done that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you write them out, is it like, are you critiquing yourself? Or is it
Most of
just a more of a learning process?
I think it's more of a learning process. Like, okay, this is what happened. Okay, maybe next time we could do it this way. Like,
Hmm.
looking at it differently in terms of always trying to figure out better ways to cope with things, or how to
Right.
deal with things. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you're never going to get a call that is exactly the same,
No,
ever,
exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
So the protocols that are in place and sort of the ways that you manage things kind of give you, even though every call could be different, it does kind of give you that sense of safety in that even if the call's different, the responses are, A, B, or C or
well, yeah, but it gives you also different strategies, how you could go about
Mhm.
things too, right?
Yeah.
So,
And there's some comfort in that.
right.
Yeah.
It's always learning. You're always
Yeah.
constantly learning,
Yeah.
no matter what, right?
For sure. Yeah. Does your job stress ever kind of impact your relationships with other people or
Um, I don't know, kind of, because honestly, I'm 7 months out of a relationship,
Mhm.
of 4 years. Um, but when I was with her, yes, calls, and last year my back was really bad, but I still wanted to partake in the calls. And I was you shouldn't go because you're back. But I went anyway because I know my
Right.
limits.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
it can affect a relationship, it really can, but it all depends on your partner. If they're open and willing to support you,
Mhm.
and be able to, like with my ex-husband, when I wasn't on the brigade and he'd come home from a call, hey, do you want to talk about it? Always being
Right.
supportive and open, and I'm always here, if you want to talk, because it can get really bad, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but if
So
you have a
what would you need in a partner to feel supported?
just to, I think for me, it's just about, this is my passion.
Yeah.
Support me in my passion. You have passion, I'm going to support you no matter what, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but also be able to be ready and able to talk and listen, and if that comes down to it,
Right.
make
Yeah.
sure you have that open, honest relationship where you can sit down and talk about absolutely everything,
Mhm.
regardless.
Yeah. Yeah. It must, I'm thinking like, just in respects to being in a partnership with my husband, and he doesn't do anything that's life threatening or anything like that, but just different times I can remember through our relationship, um, my worry for him, for whatever
Absolutely.
he was going through, was causing me a lot of anxiety. So I imagine it must be hard to be on the other side of that
Oh,
relationship and wanting to support your passions, but then also when you're
worrying because
probably having a hard go of it, thinking, well, this sounds terrible. Why wouldn't you just stop? Or if your back's aching you so bad, why wouldn't you stop? Right.
yeah,
So, yeah,
it's
that's got to
hard
be tough.
because us firefighters were type A personality, so we're always like headstrong, and we want to do it. And
Right.
um but imagine being on the opposite side of that person, so on the opposite of me being a fire or first responder.
You've had both experiences. You've been the
Absolutely,
partner of, and
I have been
yeah,
lucky that way.
yeah,
Being on the opposite side, there is a constant worry because, oh gosh, what happens if I get the chief coming to the door, that's not a good
right,
sign. Or
right.
you know freak accidents happen,
Mhm.
unfortunately, and that's always a concern, because you can lose a loved one in
Yeah,
in a certain circumstance during a call, and I
right.
mean, that does take a toll on the relationship too, but
Mhm.
it's a risk, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's the same for any partner of someone in the military or police or whatever. There's always that
Absolutely.
thought. And you can know intellectually signing up for it, like, marrying someone in the military, he could go or they could go overseas or
Right.
whatever. I think you could be okay intellectually with it, but then actually living with that day in and day out would be challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some days it is like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And so, um, advice for other people who are in a relationship with someone who's a first responder.
I just think that being honest and open and key.
Mhm.
Communication is key. It's
Yeah.
number one. Sorry, the dogs are barking, but
Yeah.
um, definitely being open and communicative, and not, I think, not pushing that person to talk, and let them be ready and able,
Mhm.
you know, saying, hey, I'm here, I'm available as my loved one, whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here,
Right.
not pushing them, because they need to feel, we have to process it in our own minds,
Right.
right? And that could take who, it all depends on the person. It could take a
Yeah,
day, it could take a week, it could take,
yeah.
who knows?
And it might depend on the situation too.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's just like, grief. Like, you have to let that person process everything
Mhm.
and then be able to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, for sure. So, as being the person who has that career, if you're
Yep.
in relationship with someone, how do you feel if they express their fears about and their worries about you being out on calls? Or like, are you okay to receive that kind of emotion?
So if I wasn't on a call, you're saying? And
So no, like if you were to come home and your partner was, feeling upset or feeling emotional about the fact that you were on a call,
okay.
and they express that, fear comes up for them, or um they get more anxious if it's, middle of the night call or something. Like, are you okay hearing that, or would you rather them sort of go and talk to their own therapist about it? Like, is that just maybe more pressure or stress on you?
No, it's got to be a two-way street. Like, if
Hmm.
anybody gets in a relationship with a first responder, they have to understand what that person's position is. You
Yeah.
know, first responders are very passionate about what they do, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think if you are getting into a relationship, or you are in a relationship with a first responder, you have to understand what they do, but they also have to understand what their partner's expectations are, as well. And yeah, they
Yeah.
can, their partner could have anxiety, but like I said, in a relationship, communication, it's all about communication, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
For
and
sure.
being there for one another. So
Mhm. Mhm. Because you're both living the experience
absolutely,
together,
100%.
just in different ways,
That's
obviously.
right.
But yeah, so
But communication is extreme. Like, no matter what, whether you're first responder or not, in a relationship, it should always be communication. Hey,
mhm.
I'm just still learning it too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
easy, but
I
I
know.
mean, yeah, like, I don't know. Life's
One
not
of the
perfect.
beauties one of the beauties of being in your 40s is like you start to
Yeah,
really integrate some of the stuff that you've been picking
right?
up along the way, and things start to make a little bit more sense. So
You're right.
it's like, okay,
Absolutely. It's
yeah,
like, oh, okay. This is what this
yeah,
meant.
yeah.
You know what? Honestly, life is not perfect. It's not.
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
mean, if you care about somebody who, you're with enough, then you're going to make it work. And
Mhm.
like I said, number one is communication, regardless, for
Yeah.
on both sides,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
that
for
responder
sure.
and that partner,
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I had, but I think it's just, I mean, this has been fascinating. Like I said, I've just, I know other people in other professions that are healing professions or helper professions. And I, been sort of always connecting with that kind of energy, just
Right.
because that's my energy. And then when you said that you were a firefighter, I was like, oh wow, that takes it to a whole other level, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm willing to be with someone in their pain, but not necessarily in the bodily fluid parts, or
Right.
like the really gross. And I don't have like body like you, like I'm not like gonna pass out for blood, but there's a reason I didn't become a nurse, even though I've got that helper healer in me.
Right.
Um, so when I meet people or talk to people that are in those kind of professions, I'm like, it's just, yeah, it's like it's a calling, isn't it? Like,
It really is. It truly is.
yeah, because
Yeah.
there's no way that most people don't, otherwise they'd all be firefighters or,
Right.
you know, right? So there's that need, that wanting to help, But then there's something else. There's like that
It
extra element
it
of
takes a certain kind of special person to
it
become
does.
a nurse or a doctor or, a firefighter or a police officer or even like um correctional officer. Like
Mhm.
it takes a certain kind of a person, you
Yeah,
know, that wants to do that. And like I said before, it's not for everybody,
right.
but you know,
So do you think that your struggles with mental health have kind of propelled you, like were they sort of like coinciding, or like your desire to help or heal other
no,
people?
it started way before. Like I said, I started in the lifeguarding business and
Mhm. Okay.
learning CPR and all that
So
at
that desire was always there.
16. It was always there. Yeah. Always
Right.
wanted to be that, helping person. It's
Right.
always been
Okay.
in my blood, but
Yeah.
um yeah, no, mental health for me had nothing to do with it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think in some respects though, that now that you've been through those experiences and you're working through those issues, that it gives you a different perspective that other people might not have in your field?
Oh, yeah, sorry I lost you there.
That's okay.
Yeah, I definitely feel that being in this position and not only myself battling PTSD, but others knowing what they're going through, it takes it to a whole new level. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not ashamed to admit that, yeah, I have PTSD. And, there's nothing wrong with somebody who has it. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. There are many of people out there that also have it
Mhm.
that may not
Yeah.
even know it. And
Yeah.
it's okay to talk about it. I want
Yeah.
people to understand that regardless of anything, and especially the young kids today, because
Mhm.
I find that a lot of the young adolescents are, battling
Yeah.
suicide and all that, and it's really unfortunate. But I want people to know that no matter what, reach out, talk to people.
Yeah.
um you
For
know
sure.
like there's nothing to be ashamed of. We all
Yeah.
have at one point in our life gone through that,
Mhm.
or even had thoughts of, maybe not
Yeah.
even, you know
Yeah.
there's no shame
I
in it.
think people would be shocked in the same way that there was shock around the Me Too movement. I think if the more people talk about mental health and realize that everyone has experienced some trauma of
Absolutely.
some sort in their
You're
lives
right.
and been adversely affected by it. So we're all traumatized people.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, some more than others, obviously. I'm not,
Yep.
but
Oh no, and
regardless, pain is pain.
you're
And
right.
so we're all suffering. And when we recognize that, then and talk about it more, like you're so bravely willing to do here, and I appreciate that.
You know what? I just want people to know. I mean, I didn't go in depth in my story, but
Yeah.
I want people to know that, yeah, um, suicide awareness, I want that to be out there, especially for those young kids. I
Mhm.
want people to know that, yeah, I'm a first responder. Yeah, I battled PTSD. Yeah, my dad committed suicide. But you know what? I want it to be put out there because I want people to understand that it's okay to reach out to people.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to seek mental health. It's okay that, I'm on an anti anxiety prescription because it helps
Exactly.
me. There
Yeah.
is no, like, the stigma around all that has got to stop because There's no rhyme or reason. How are we going to get better?
Yeah, so no, I really appreciate you talking about it because I feel like there is still a lot of stigma around it, and it's becoming less,
Yeah,
right? Obviously, there is improvement, but we've got a long way to go, and especially around the talk of suicide
yeah,
and for our youth, like they need to know that there's another side, there's another there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's other
there
ways
is.
to be, and that it doesn't always have to feel this way.
That's right.
And it's hard, like when you're stuck in those thought patterns and you feel like you're just in quicksand, it's hard to even imagine. But I think the more people who've had those thoughts talk about how they kind of came out the other side. And everyone's process is different. So
Oh, it is.
it's not like you have to, tell all of your story or even all of your journey. I
Yeah,
think for some people, just knowing that you made that journey and that, you've created a life worth living, which is a huge part of, DBT skills and
absolutely.
right? And finding your passion and just really embracing that is a huge part to getting to that other side,
Absolutely.
right?
There is hope. There is a way. There, I have tattooed on my arm, my story isn't over yet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Because I have too much to live for,
Yeah.
right? There
You're
is.
writing a better story for yourself now.
That's it. you know
Yeah.
and being a first responder, I have so much potential to give to the community,
God. Yeah.
that, I mean, yeah, there's just so much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just making sure that people are understanding that, what, reach out, talk,
Mhm.
let's get this awareness out there, and help people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so I'm gonna include links for like 1-800 numbers and all
Absolutely.
that good stuff. And actually, my son and I just he helps me record stuff. God love him. He came up with the idea of creating a video for parents of LGBTQ youth who
Perfect.
I mean, as you know, like there's high statistics on suicide. And I, God love them. I have one who is BPD as well as being non-binary. So it's like this sort of nice
Oh,
little
it hits home.
cauldron of, right? And so just to even like express to other parents, like you have to practice unconditional love and radical acceptance, even if you don't understand it at first,
Yeah.
even if you think it's a phase or a fad or whatever, get through that.
So
Don't voice that to your children, just deal with it in therapy, um because they need to know that they are loved and accepted at home, right?
So I started off as a young child. I was bisexual, but now I lean towards women, so I'm gay,
Yeah,
lesbian, if you
yeah,
will.
yeah.
My mom, my mom, unfortunately, doesn't agree with it, but she does accept it. You know,
Okay.
um,
Mhm.
I am very open with my children,
Yeah,
and also being a first responder. Everybody on the brigade knows I had a partner
yeah,
of 4 years, and unfortunately things with her and I did not work, but whatever.
yeah,
Um, they are all accepting no matter what. They may not like it, but it's becoming more and more popular as well, because women of our, regardless if you're her, she, non-binary, lesbian, whatever, gay,
yeah,
you still can do that job. because
Yeah.
I'm no different than my brother Charlie, who sits next to me and is on the brigade and is straight and married, and
Right.
I
Exactly.
we shouldn't be. And the fire industry is very good at that. They don't
Mhm.
judge by any means.
Okay.
Um,
That's good to know.
yeah, no, it's becoming more and more acceptable,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but as a mom who is also has a daughter who's come out and you know out of the closet, said she is lesbian, I accept her no matter what. You
Yeah.
know, she's my daughter. I'm gonna love her. I don't care.
Exactly.
You know, who
Yeah. I
cares?
I mean, for me, it's just a matter of I always want my kids to be safe. I want them to be happy. I want them to be loved. And I really don't care what the package is that's housing that soul that's going to provide those things for my
What does that matter, really? Right? As
child.
long as
Exactly.
they're loved, supported, successful in life. You know what?
Yeah,
Identity does not matter.
I know. And it's so hard to have those kind of conversations because I work with youth and oh, like junior high and high school are so
Rough.
brutal. And it's just painful to be like I'm in the classroom and I get to sit back because I'm not a teacher. I'm actually an EPA. I'm right in the classroom. And it's like they forget that I'm there sometimes. And I'll see these dynamics play out. And it just, I don't know, it's heartbreaking. And you wish like you could just be like, you don't get it. Like in a few more years,
Yeah,
all of this
I know.
won't matter.
But
So
we gotta make sure we teach them that. We continue to
yeah.
outsource ourselves to those um, young adults,
Hmm.
to understand that no matter what, reach out, talk to people.
Yeah.
Um, it may not be your parents, or your guardians or whatever, but then talk to, your friends, or, your friend's mom, or your friend's dad, or, grandma, or whoever,
Yeah,
reach out. It's important.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
I've
no
so
problem. This was
enjoyed.
great. I loved it.
Yeah, you're an awesome, awesome person to talk to.
Well, thanks.
When you said you could talk about firefighting passionately for 30 minutes, like, and I mean, that was just a small part. I mean, it's a big part, but it's a small part of sort of the topics that I wanted to touch on as far as like what it means to be a woman in that field and how do you deal with the mental health component of that
Right.
and
Yeah.
how do you bring sort of the baggage of your previous mental health that's not job related to that work and still manage and like oh it's just been fascinating talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks. No problem.
And thanks for giving up a couple, well, yeah, about almost an hour of your beautiful sunny Sunday. I
It's all
appreciate
good, my
that.
dear. It's all good.
So lovely
It was a
meeting you.
blast. I want people to know that they're not the only ones out there.
Yeah,
We all have stories.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
it was great, Stephanie. Thanks for having me.
So much. It's been lovely.
We'll keep in touch.
We will. Take care.